Hi guys, here's a strange little bug. I can't recall ever seeing this, but he's got those weird kind of oscillating antennae that are moving independent of each other like a scissor action. I've never seen that, but I'll find out what it is as usual and drop it in for you on this. It's on the bindweed here, which is beautiful for bees. Not so good if you've got OCD because it gets everywhere, but yeah, beautiful for bees, and especially a good mid to late season plant. I just thought I'd catch up with you really, just for a chat and try and relax in the garden with you for a minute, but also just to give you an idea of what's going on. I've pretty much finished with the construction now of the habitats for this year. I've got this nice little bit of wood I found, which is an old fence post. I thought it'd be fun for next year to try and see how many 3mm holes I could fit in it for the Campanularum, and get the pillar drill back out and try and figure out the wiring because it blew up last year, and see if I can fit like 1,000 on that one bit. That would be quite interesting. I'll time lapse it for you if I do it. I know it's sad, but you know, the garden's doing really well. This area, it's you can just see there, I don't know if you caught that, there's a leaf cutter bee going in there, so they're using the bamboo still. All this has kind of grown up this year, which is great for privacy and stuff, but it's given this area a little bit more shade. But the Campanularum are still using this area, which is really good. The garden, you know, it's going to seed now really, especially we've been in a heat wave for 4 weeks. Got some new plants I haven't seen before, don't know what they are. It looks like a mallow to me, but most welcome, as is the knapweed, which is a great plant for pollinators, and the lady's bedstraw, I believe this yellow stuff's called, like tiny little flowers, big heads of tiny little flowers, but quite pretty. And that's everywhere. And a lot of St John's wort this year. There we go, there's a bee on the knapweed there for you, see if we can ID, and that's a red tail, it's a lapidarius, so Bombus lapidarius, a red tail bee, little worker there. That's no more than 1 centimetre long, so it really is worker time. Then you got your St John's wort here, which I'm going to show you now. You know if it's St John's wort because if you look down the stem from the top, it's got 2 sets of leaves here, and then the next set up or down is right angles to those leaves. So when you look down it, you can see it makes a cross, a perfect kind of cross, and that's, I guess, why it's called St John's wort, known for its healing and medicinal properties. And you can just eat it, and put it in salads, stuff like that. You can also do stuff with the stem and put it on wounds and stuff like that, but it's fine. It's got flavonoids in it and stuff like that. The top ponds are starting to dry out in this heat wave, and I'm not replenishing the water because in nature it would drop in the summer and then replenish in the autumn. I won't let them completely dry out, but I don't want to turn the taps on either. But crikey, if you go back a few videos and look, this was just a patch of earth when I was seeding it back in April, which was what we made June 3 months ago, and now look at it. It's gone crazy up here, but it's still really good. And we've also got cornflowers that have come through, and a myriad of other kind of plants of which I'm not sure the names of. Lots of cornflowers. There's a blue cornflower just down in there, you can see. So it's done really well. I think for the leaf cutters though, this area here has been incredibly successful. If we just go up here, I'm sure it won't take long before we see a leaf cutter in action on here, because they've used pretty much all of these habitats. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these over here are new, and they've all been used, none more so than this one. And just because you can only see 6 chambers here with the green, that means they're finished off. A lot of the larger 10mm holes will be being used as we speak and being populated, and I think there's one just about to come in. He keeps coming about. One thing I learned from doing some research recently is that when you're doing habitats, it doesn't hurt to I say colour your habitat, like if you're doing one like this, or put some unique things on it to make each area noticeably different, because they do use visual markings bees to locate a hole. Although the 5,000 hole one I've got over there with no markings on it at all, I watch bees and they go straight back to the hole they left 20 minutes ago. So I don't know, the jury's out on that one, but it is done really well here. And I can't see any bees, but I'll keep an eye out. I think one was interested a minute ago, that I think he doesn't like the fact that I'm in front of his habitat. But really, really good. Oh, hang on, is he going back? He's round the back. One thing I will say, this vertically cut one, so this is cut with the grain, I do see bees in it, but nothing like the amount of bees I see when I cross-cut grain. Now, I don't know if that's a preference of theirs, but it's something to bear in mind if you're making a habitat. I don't know. I'd like to think they use this, because I've seen them, but I haven't seen many finished holes, which is how you really tell. Whereas the cross-cut ones, oh, and there we go, he's got a leaf and he's going in. They've done really well, and all 5 of these have done really well. So we go back to the main wall here. I've got a new habitat down here, which I had a second half. If you imagine, I had a log I cut in 2, and one was made as a habitat, the best one, but I used the other half, which is a bit more scrappy, and I made one in honour of our cat Sandy, who was our beloved family member. And when I say family member, I mean that in the real sense of the word. We loved her like you wouldn't believe, and my wife and I have had a massive period of mourning since we lost her, a beautiful Burmese rescue, and we've not been the same since. We've still got our other 3 and we love them all the same, but when we lose one, it hits us hard. I think we put so much into our cats, and they form part of our lives as much as people do, really. So anyway, I thought it'd be nice to do one in her name, so I did that. This is the big 4,000 hole one. I forget now, I think it's 3,948. Trouble is with it, it's like anything, you learn, don't you? And what I've learned over the years is that you need a roof on these habitats. That is the best thing. It's an all-round thing. You can face them in the sun if you've got a roof. You can face them, any direction, as long as you've got that cover from the rain and the sun. So this one didn't. The top was always used more than anything else, and you can see here that it's buzzing away, and the number of holes that have been filled are close to kind of 30-40%. Whereas down the bottom it just gets less and less and less, and it literally does as you further down you go. So by the inclusion of 4 new roofs, hopefully this will mean that the shadow oscillates over the surface during the day and cools and warms different areas, creating a lower average temperature, which is what I'm after. And also there's the rain, because once the rain is protected from the rain for about the first foot, but then it can blow onto the surface or whatever, whereas now if you look from above, it's really well protected. So that was an idea I had, an old bit of ply, so did that the other night. There's leaf cutters on this one, there we go, just noticed that. Campanularum still doing brilliantly. There's a good few hundred on in now, but starting to die back. But this one here has been, if ever you needed proof that roof is what you need on habitats, and then it allows you to face them in the sun, it's this one, because for most of the day this whole top bit is in shadow, and that's exactly where they've decided to use. And there's a beautiful big, if I rest this on here, there's a beautiful big leaf cutter on there right now, which we can watch for a second. If I don't drop the iPad. Let's just try and get this. There we go. Now, he's a big boy. Now there are 224 species of solitary bees in the UK. I'm not sure how many leaf cutters of those there are, but I will show you at the bottom of the screen in a second. Now he looks slightly different, a bit more furry than the ones I'm used to seeing, although you get different sizes as they mature and eat. They will be different sizes, they don't all come out at exactly the same time, and they also become tatty like the males. They're called tatty males at the end of the season because they've been fighting for females and dropping on the ground, and they really do, they tussle with other males and roll over on the ground and get kind of damaged. It's a bit like a blue tit when he's nesting his chicks. His own care goes out the window and they end up looking really scrappy by the end of the season. And it's the same for males, so you do get tatty males which sometimes look in completely different species, but this is definitely a leaf cutter. Obviously is just finishing off the chambers there. The chambers, they don't always finish off neatly, sometimes they do, and I think there's method in this. Sometimes they put loads of different bits stuck on the outside, and I guess they've got some redundancy in there built in, so that if the weather knocks some of these circular leaf bits off, you know, 'cause it's got to last a good 8 months to next year. Well, if you say August, September, October, November, December, and then another 5, so 10 months really this has got to last. They've got to build in that redundancy so that the chambers never get exposed, so that's probably why they kind of look a bit scrappy. But I've seen both types. Maybe it's different types of bees. Maybe some leaf cutters finish them off nice and some not so nice. Up here you can see on the bamboo, which is completely different, there's both actually. You can see there the 2 green ones which haven't dried out yet and are quite cleanly finished off, and then there's a really scrappy one in the middle, and then down to the left of those you've got some mason bee ones which are chewed up kind of sand and earth. Now you might be interested to know that in the actual chambers themselves, solitary bees use both nectar and pollen. They have nectar in their mouths when they go out collecting, and pollen on their scopa, wherever the scopa would be. Now if it's a campanularum, it would be underneath their abdomen, so they take it back off there. But most solitary bees, and including campanularum, they're hairy because they get the pollen everywhere, and then when they get back to the nest site they scrape it off their bodies and collect it, and then mix it with the nectar in their mouths and make a kind of gluey mass, and it's on that they place the egg, and the egg will hatch next year and eat that mixture, and that's how the whole cycle kind of works. And but yeah, it's I think it's, if I had to say, it's probably been the most successful year for the garden as a whole. Some things have fared not so well, like the butterflies, the large butterflies, but the habitats have, I was a bit worried at first, but I shouldn't be. I haven't done it this long. They've come out in spades and really successful, particularly the campanularum, which has just been wonderful. And I'll miss them when they're gone, because it's been a treat sitting out here every night. But I've still got the leaf cutters for a while, but the campanularum are just dying off that little bit. So I'll leave it there. I'll just leave it with you, looking at this little guy here who's working on that new tube there. I think in a couple of weeks the top of this one will be all used, the 10mm holes anyway. So, you know, get that good mixture of holes if you want a variety of solitary bees. And I suppose I would like next year to start working on a tawny mining bee and seeing what I can do for them. Obviously you wouldn't be making an artificial habitat for them. Their very nature means they do like to mine. I've seen some designs that you can make that with a kind of sand mixture. I think it's called pot sand, something like that. Almost like sharp sand, not so fine like builder's sand, but a grainy kind of sand. And I've seen designs with people making those. Perhaps I'll try one of those next year. But for now, I'll just leave it with you, and I'll speak soon once I start on that campanularum 1000-hole one, which will be in the next couple of weeks once my neck's better. Cheers guys.